Hello again, everyone. 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. Back running solo here after a couple of great weeks of sit downs. Man, I love having this concept of the guest bringing the material. It makes it so fun. It makes it organic. It makes it in the moment. I'm learning things along the way. It's just a lot of fun. So thank you all for joining us on that journey. So today I want to talk about process. I want to talk about how repeatable and easy your process is, because I think it's what makes the difference. As you guys know, I'm a big baseball fan, and so a lot of what they talk about when they talk about making pitchers or even hitters better is making everything that they do easy and repeatable, taking out any sort of hiccups or where things slow down or anything that would make it flow straight. And even the slightest thing, if you can remove it, any sort of friction, if you will, then everything goes more smoothly. And as a fan of my team, I've watched their pitchers evolve, right? Under new leadership who says, look, let's go this route. Let's try this. It's easier. It's simpler. And to us, it really resonates because at CardBiz, everything we talk about is being a repeatable process, is doing the same thing over and over and to ensure that nothing falls through the cracks. And so a lot of the time, I myself will challenge us and say, are we doing this the best we can? Should we be doing it differently? And every time I come back to, we've already kind of stripped all that out. I mean, it's been 8 years. So you've worked through all that, you've gotten that, and now it's smooth, it's super repeatable, it follows a specific pattern, doesn't matter what happens. And we learned that a lot during the pandemic, but I've also found that people now have sort of overcomplicated things with their process, whether it's involving silly digital retail tools or trying to figure out how to acquire cars off the street. I feel like the process is just, they're not standard enough, they're not simple enough, they're overcomplicated, there's too many people involved, and I think that becomes a bit of a problem for me. And it's funny because I've recently experienced outside of our industry of automotive, having a larger renovation project done for the house, and took multiple bids from multiple people, and one of the people that came in sat down and was like, hey, I have a very specific process I like to follow. I can get it done in about 35 minutes. Can we go step by step this way? Is that okay with you? And I thought to myself, absolutely, that's okay with me. As long as you have the ability to pause and sort of return back. And I say that because if you're going to be presenting an idea and have a process the way you like to present your sales pitch, for instance, which is what this gentleman was doing, if you want to be able to do that, you've got to be able to know where you start and where you stop, because you've still got to have a conversation with that other person, right? You can't allow this repeatable process. What happens when you're interrupted, right? In this case, this dude didn't have necessarily that ability, right? So as we got talking about things, he got further on down the funnel, and via our conversation, I wouldn't say allowed me, but that's what ended up happening, was we took the conversation sort of to the end of his process. And so by the time we got to the end of his process, he's like, oh man, because I got out of my groove, if you will, I got to go back and cover, make sure I cover these 3 things, which is fine. I don't really care. And honestly, I wouldn't really notice unless someone brought it up. If you can continually just return yourself back to point A, right? The conversation, you want to go A to Z, and someone stops you at C, go ahead and talk all the way to F, but make sure you come back to C. You've got to continually be able to circle back in that conversational process, in my opinion. So when we look at it, for dealers all the time, we talk about the sales process, the road to the sale, which is obviously evolving and changing with everything going on around us. However, it's really not. It should just be getting simpler, right? It should be about making a connection with the customer on a phone, email, text, chat, I don't care, right? Finding out exactly what it is that they want and allowing them to purchase it on their terms as best that we can. It is very simple if you take the steps and the headaches out of it. The idea of, especially right now, with the way inventory is, for just the time being, this isn't forever, and it's not for everyone either. Not everyone, not all dealers, or even brands are experiencing the mass shortage. That's not actually how it's gone. So you don't have to worry about changing everything for everyone. Be specific to your store, your brand. If you hear the noise, but you're not having the problem, that's one thing. I've got a GM client that's got 6 cars on the ground, used to having 60. That's a legitimate problem, right? But it shouldn't change his sales process any, except for the fact that he's selling the heck out of incoming, right? Probably a lot more CPO and used wherever available because he does a good job with that. But that's about it. So it doesn't, inventory shortages, pandemics, all these things, they don't have to change the process if the process is simple and repeatable. Think about that. Think about people say, oh, I have a process. Okay, great. I'm glad you have a process. That's important. But is the process simple and or easy to understand and or repeatable? Because if you say, well, yeah, it's my process and I'll show it to you, that can be tough because it works for you. It might not work for everyone, thus not making it repeatable. So I really challenge people to look at their process, see if it is as simple as it can be, and then go back and worry about where you think you might want to tweak it. Every time you think about tweaking it, just because it's a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, the adage of not broke, don't fix it applies. Doesn't mean don't inspect. Always be looking around, making sure things we're dealing with now we weren't dealing with 5 years ago and 5 years before that. So we have to be looking at it. But the process, getting the customer to the vehicle they want, making it easy, having them be satisfied, and getting them into our service department really should never change. Baseball's pitchers, the size, how fast they throw, that will always change. Their job will not. A ball will not. The bat will always exist for a hitter. The concept of hit ball will never change. 150 years into something. So, but again, all the parts around it, the measurements, the data, the blah, 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 it all goes on. It's all changed. The basics have not. So the simple hit the ball, throw the ball, that still exists. It's not going to change. So I just really want you to go back. I want you to think about how every time you look at a process, no matter what it is, even in life, guys, I have a process for everything that I do, okay? I have a couple of cats, dude. I clean litter boxes a certain way, okay? I go outside, I water gardens a certain way. I am a nutbag. It used to be really bad, like really bad. I'd go to airports, only go a certain way, gates, hotels, go a certain way, take things out, driving a certain direction. If there's a restaurant over here on the 4 main highway, we aren't going to that. We can only go to ones on the right. I mean, I'm telling you, this shit, she's back here shaking her head. She knows, I mean, she's lived it, man. It's her life. It's her life. But I've scaled it back in some regards. I've lightened up in some regards. And so, I can adjust, but it doesn't change the fact that you gotta have a solid process, all right, for everything that you do. I don't care what it is, just have a process for it, really. That's what I'm gonna say. All right, thank you guys so much. This was fun. See, producer's having fun. She's on the floor. She can't believe it. Next week, we're gonna have a little bit more solo running here, talking to you. I've got an interesting topic. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on it. Thank you guys so much. Have yourselves a wonderful week.